Neither one
Welcome
of us
back.
wants to talk.
No way. Hey, look. That's because we just got finished talking, and look, if you were on with us before, well, then you heard us talk, and you might just be worn out and not join us this time. It all depends. It all depends. So, what are
Awesome
we talking
stuff.
about?
Yes.
What are we
Oh,
talking
sorry.
about today? Or this time? What's happening? What's the question?
The question of the day is if you're running campaigns, often you're going to be doing promotions, right? Here's
Right.
my new latest thing.
Yep.
What do you do in between? How do you live promotion to promotion?
Or how do you avoid living from promotion to promotion? How does it not have to feel like a hamster wheel where all
Yeah,
you're doing is
yeah.
creating new stuff and launching new stuff and creating new stuff and launching new stuff?
Yeah, see, I don't
Well,
I don't know anything
yeah.
about that. All I do is promote, promote, promote. So,
Oh, so everybody who's in business is doing multiple things. We talked about this before. I'll bring it up again until maybe I'm blue in the face. Right? You're doing marketing and advertising. You're doing promotions. You're doing sales. You're doing fulfillment, and you're doing after sales care. That's really sort of the life cycle that you have as a business owner or in a leader in a business. And the challenge is promotion to promotion to promotion to promotion. It gets exhausting, right? I mean, all you're doing is trying to create a new way of reintroducing yourself, and the promotion to promotion to promotion is kind of what's new. If you kind of go and you look back at really successful companies, they spend quite a bit of time in the very beginning, sort of perfecting the campaign, and then they take good campaigns and they just let them go and keep on going and keep on going. So how would you because you have maybe I'm reading something into it, but most of the campaigns I think you said were you do giveaways,
right,
and giveaways have a deadline.
right.
And because they have a deadline, you got to do it all over again. How would you convert your campaigns into something evergreen?
There's multiple ways of doing that. And I think most people that I have worked with, businesses and individuals, struggle with this whole thing, right? Which is
Yeah.
why we're doing it as a topic.
Right. Yeah.
As an example, I did a Nutrigrain kind of a bar, kind of a company, and um, they oh look, uh, this is a good reason why we don't. I don't know if you see the comments that just came in.
Oh yeah. Well,
This is why we don't just throw
this
these comments up.
this is
Sorry.
hilarious. So for those of you who don't know, we're being spammed by somebody who apparently doesn't think a lot of themselves, because they would like for both Mitch and I to unbuckle our pants and measure. That's a heck of a way to promote yourself if you are a not so strong human being, but it is what it is. Yeah, so watch the
Sorry.
comments and watch the chat box. This is not our normal audience, but we appreciate that there's some comments here. It's all
What
good.
what fascinates me is that there are about 10 that came in rapid fire. They all say the same thing,
Exactly the
and
same
they're
thing.
coming from different user
Yep,
IDs. So there's some
yep.
bot that's running that says, "Hey, look, there's a new live stream on Twitch. Let's
That's
spam it
right.
with this stuff."
Is that where those comments are coming from? Is
Y-
Twitch?
Yes, they're coming. They're all from Twitch.
Oh, that's
So
awesome. Somebody figured out how to do a Python routine that goes and searches for a brand new live stream. Hey, way to go, dude. That's fantastic. I'm super proud of you.
they're gone now, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They're not listening to you. They
Super
spammed
proud
and
of you.
ran.
Super proud
Anyway,
of you.
so this Nutrigrain bar, like this granola kind of company, came to me and they said, "Well, we want to run 5 or 6 campaigns and we want to go sequentially."
Yeah.
and then things fell apart. They were good campaigns. They had it. Bravo to them because they had the data. They spent the time to look at the data and said, "Hey, we made a profit off of that campaign we did with you last time, so let's do it
Yeah.
again."
Yeah.
Which is kind of the right. Here comes another spam bot. Maybe I don't want to be on Twitch. Sorry.
Well, it's okay. It's all right.
But the struggle, what I really wanted to point out by bringing this particular uh, company up was that they started to do the right thing, right?
Yep.
Run a campaign, test it, see how it works. Run another campaign.
Yep.
Contests are great opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Run 5 or 6 of them in a row. That's the right way to do it. But then they kind of took a break and did this and that. And then you're not getting the good stats that you really need to get.
Right. Yep.
The other side of that, what I wanted them to really do was to start doing other kinds of promotions as well, but they had the contest brain going on. We only want to
Yeah.
do
Yeah. Yeah.
contests, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I preach this now because I think you ought to be doing word of mouth style campaigns for just about everything you do if you can.
Sure.
Why not,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep.
We know word of mouth works. So, in the periods between the big campaigns,
Yep.
have those evergreen campaigns. Like, as an example, my newsletter, if you sign up to my newsletter, there's a plug at the bottom of every one asking you to refer somebody else. And if you
Right.
get to a certain level, then you get a bonus. Hello, this stuff
Yeah.
works. So,
Yeah.
there are techniques that you can do in between the big promotions.
And that's kind of where I was headed was these sort of going promotion to promotion to promotion is exhausting, but to add some stability to what it is you're doing, take the list that you're generating off these promotions and send them to the evergreen campaign. And have content that is leading directly to the evergreen campaign. Use it in your newsletter, use it everywhere so that you have this constant flow of new traffic into the campaigns that are generating revenue. Because,
Right?
like, I mean, not as many. We're seeing some very clever ways of doing word of mouth advertising that is generating revenue off of the lead campaign, but it's really unusual. I mean, normally we're really just generating highly qualified leads, using those leads then to send them to another offer that would benefit them, that we understand. And by doing that, we are able to generate enough data to know what's working and what's not, and there's always something working in the background rather than you being exhausted having to put up a new giveaway.
Right.
You know, and I mean, good news with the tools that are available. We can clone campaigns and
Right.
get them
Right.
back up right away, which is
Right.
great. But you still have a start date, you still have an end date, you still have reporting back, you still have all these other things that are associated with generating those leads, and they're doing is stacking up in a list. Unless you're sending them somewhere else to another offer, they're not doing you any good
Right.
at all.
Exactly.
So, I
There are I want to give an example if you don't mind of
no, go for it.
like I'm currently in Stu McLaren's membership experience where he teaches you how to do memberships, which are of
Okay.
course a very popular model, right?
Mhm.
You get recurring revenue from people every month as opposed to doing a big sales cycle. What he's advocating, which kind of drives me crazy, maybe I'm just not at the point yet where it makes sense, but his team and many of the other teams are really doing that in the information training kind of for entrepreneurs like product formula, product launch formula, those kind of people.
Mhm.
Um, Run your campaign once a year and then run people through minor promotions or just keep them in your membership or stuff later on because you that way you're consolidating your promotion, right? You're
Right.
spending
Yep.
all of your time and effort in a small compact time frame, and then you don't have to just keep doing promotion after promotion after promotion.
Yeah, and to sort of expand on what you're talking about, in my view, if you spend a little bit of time thinking about the people who you're attracting with this offer, there are multiple levels in your sweet spot of what you offer or what you can invite them to that might work for some that don't work for others. So be
Right.
careful not to generate or create only one other thing that they can do.
Right.
Find something that maybe the really inexperienced people who don't know an awful lot about the solution you have, they can participate in. It's not a huge risk, and then provide them. At sort of the second one for me would be to take those that dig you, understand who you are, and really wanna go deep and give them a sort of an immersive way to take that on, and that's gonna be a really expensive version, but it gives them a whole lot of value, and
Right.
then as you start to get some feedback, you can kinda fill in the gaps along the way as they sort of, ascend in your structure, whatever that is, so, um, being able to provide this fresh list, ways to get involved and in an invite for them to take certain actions, is great, and that variety is super helpful. They don't get burned up.
Right.
So,
It's a very common question, if I may, but there's so many
yeah.
topics here.
No, that's good.
I mean,
That's
in this,
good.
but the example of stew, for example, and in the environment that you kind of sort of live in, with the training side of things, is that
Yep.
I think the more ideal thing that's going on now is get people into your world, and you just mentioned this, and the struggle that they usually have if they're just taking like a pure training program is what do you do after, right? What is the next
Right.
step? And typically people want some hand holding. And
Yep.
therefore, the membership model after a training course makes a lot of sense to be able to get in and be able to help them do more stuff in a hand holding kind of way. But if you're doing products like the granola bar people, right, there
Yep.
isn't necessarily some training that goes on after that.
Right.
So what do you do you've worked with more clients that are product based, I think, than I have necessarily.
Yeah.
What do you do to keep that interest going time after time?
Yeah, so with product providers, sometimes it's a continuity program that's different than training, right? So it's a consumption continuity program where they get a discount off of for instance, the granola bars. We'll ship you, 30 granola bars a month, and you can have one a day, or we'll ship you a granola bar and a I don't know, a blender and some recipes in the very beginning, and then we'll start to give you supplements to put into your smoothie on a regular basis, those kinds of things. Um, there are other continuity programs that exist in like service businesses, right? Well, if you pay per month, and we're going to be out to your place and work on the pest control or whatever every quarter, now you're generating revenue every month, and the cost, or you're sort of front loading the revenue so that as you have to spend money to send people out, they're already paid for. There's lots of ways to do that, and then you can have, even on those service businesses, you can provide them a continuity program that is low level, or one that's super high touch, where they feel like it's the white glove treatment, and they're okay with it. That's what they want. They want that kind of service from you. So it's not that much different. It just happens to be in a hands-on business rather than an online business. It's not information, it's real product or real service.
Yeah, yeah.
So, hey, look, if you're watching right now and you have questions, feel free to jump into the chat. We're being overwhelmed at the moment by ridiculous bots that are participating through Twitch, we believe. And there's a whole bunch of, let's say, almost profanity going on in the chat box. So a little friendly chat would be really nice. Uh, we're just being overwhelmed by the size of somebody's man vegetable.
Yeah.
That's where we are right now. And someone figured out how to do some programming and send bots our way, and so here we have it.
And I think they're very clever because as you
Yeah.
mentioned before, they're using multiple user IDs. So therefore, if I had the skill to go into Twitch to
Right.
block one, then I've got 20 that I have to block. So they're very
Yeah.
clever people. Grr.
They're clever for a moment. They would like their 15 minutes of fame, and I guess this is it. But
I
anyway,
will say, by the way, that people often ask, why does why do people do that? And the answer is, I have an answer. What's your answer?
yeah. No, I'm interested in hearing your answer.
I knew you'd do that to me. The answer is that it works, which is really sad, right? People
Yeah.
say, well, why is there still spam? Don't we have the ability to kill spam? And why would somebody just send out spam to 10 million people? Well, duh. It's working, right?
Yeah.
Somebody
That's
along the line is
yeah.
spending enough money that it makes sense for
Yep.
people, right? And there's
Yeah.
realistically somebody's getting their needs satisfied, even if it's
Yeah.
not what we think is the right thing,
Yeah.
right? So the thing that
Yeah.
drives me crazy is that this must be working for them.
Yeah. And look,
Somebody's gonna go do it.
yeah, look, and if you think that we're important enough that you want to spend your time and energy to create a bot to spam our chat,
Uh-huh.
then go for it and make
Nice.
us famous. I'm good
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
Fine,
Yeah.
whatever.
So what's your
So
go ahead, you got a
look,
question. No, you go.
I was just gonna say, so back to this sort of promotion to promotion to promotion process. Uh, h- how successful have you been in shutting down one giveaway, cloning it, and starting another one? And how often would you have people do that? Are there things that you would change from one campaign to the next?
That's a great question. You always ask great questions.
Mm.
I have not been very successful in getting clients to do that, which has been a frustration for mine for quite a while. The big example that I have is that granola bar company, right?
Yeah,
They had the plan to come do that regularly.
yeah,
And why they stopped doing it, I don't know, which was
okay,
the thing that drove me the most crazy because I'm like, wait a minute, this is working. My
right,
fee's not that big.
right, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Why aren't you guys doing this more often? Now,
yeah,
I'm also not the kind of person that's very belligerent about things where I didn't just
sure,
go, come on, you got to do this because they've got
right,
their
right,
own
right, yeah,
business to run and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah,
But because it's not hard, especially I think in the local environment,
yeah,
highly advantageous that you just keep hammering people.
yeah.
Um, One of the things is that realistically, not everybody sees your promotion these days, right? We all know
Oh,
that
absolutely, for sure.
getting your ad or your social media post in front of the people you think you have is really hard to do, right? Even the ads,
Yeah,
all of those things, you can pummel the same thing. And if you happen to irritate somebody, guess what?
yeah,
So who cares, right? The number of people that you're going to irritate by showing it to them multiple times is really low.
yeah, for
And they're
sure.
likely not going to buy from you anyway if they're mad enough that they saw your ad 3 or 4 times, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so my theory is much like yours, I believe. Go for it. Do it as often as you want.
yeah. I think it's interesting. I have some speculation as to why they might not have repeated the campaign.
Okay?
Um, we when we deal with businesses who hire us to help them, our set of goals and their set of goals are oftentimes different.
Right.
Right? We'll see a campaign that's running incredibly well in that they're getting a lot of highly qualified leads. They're getting it for $0. There's a pretty significant viral effect in which, we're getting a lot of referrals coming in, and we view that as a success. The challenge, kind of like we were talking about before, is we don't have control. This is like doing the campaign on SPAC, right? We don't have any control over the other part of the campaign that they're doing. We don't have an understanding of what email messages they're sending out to the new leads, what offers they're providing them, what how they're engaging with them. And what they might find is you're generating and I'm generating a lot of leads for them, but they're not able to convert those leads into sales. And then they say, well, it wasn't worth it. Well, it probably was worth it, but they didn't have the intestinal fortitude to try and test, and they weren't set up and ready to succeed when they originated their campaign. They When they first started it, they said, "This is awesome. Look at all these leads," and then they had nothing to do
Right.
to offer these other leads, right?
Right.
They didn't have another way for them to take advantage of the lead, and that's one of the things that I think, as a service provider, I have probably not done a very good job of communicating. Hey, look, I'm going to give you these white hot leads. They go stale pretty fast, so I need for you to engage with them as quickly as possible, so that you're actually making money off of the lead that's coming in. And don't imagine they're going to sit on your list and just know who you are all the time, and then be ready to buy as soon as you come up with the next offer. That doesn't
Right.
work.
Well,
So,
one
that's
of
just
the
my
things.
speculation.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk
That's
on
right.
you. One of the
You're
things that I think that, and I suspect you probably have a similar problem, because you mentioned not having control, is that this particular vendor, I almost said bless your heart.
ah, good for you. Way to go. You stopped yourself.
I
I dig
did,
it.
and then I brought it up to pat myself on the back again, right? But what they weren't doing was coordinating with all their other marketing activities.
Right.
For example, one of the things that we were offering in the contest was that if you referred 3 people, then you got a 20 or 30% off coupon.
Yeah.
And you go to their website, and very top of the page, there's just a 20% off coupon. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why on God's green earth would somebody
Right.
work for us if you're
Right.
just giving them away like candy?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah,
So
and
there
look,
has to be this
if you're gonna give
coordination.
everyone 20%, then this giveaway better be 70%, right? I
Right,
mean,
right.
it better be something substantially different.
Yeah. This vendor
Uh,
also, by the way, was one of the examples of somebody who refused to mail their existing list.
oh, right.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, why why would you not? Well, they already
Right.
are buyers, but they're your
Well, of course
biggest
they are.
fans.
That's
They
right.
are
Of course they are. They are buyers. That's awesome.
right.
Send them mail.
I couldn't quite figure them out,
I mean,
obviously.
unless you're okay that Joe Smith only buys one, I mean,
Right?
then put him on the list. That's
Right?
fine. Never use the
Yeah.
list again. But if you want Joe Smith to buy 1,000, you have to offer him at least 12,000, or you're not gonna make it. It's just not gonna happen. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, so I think, I mean, if I were to go back and sort of, in my own, way of summarizing where I think I've been here today is, uh, it's okay promotion to promotion to promotion to generate new leads, but be prepared to have an evergreen offer or multiple evergreen offers. I mean, generate one first, and then as the campaign's running, generate another one, and now you have two, and the next time do a third one. Now you have three, and use those new leads to feed into the offer that you have just recently created, to generate revenue. And I think that what people will find is that they will incrementally see this very consistent set of sales, and they'll be able to adjust the copy and the offer in a way, if they're paying attention to the test results, to maximize the use of the list that they've got. Um, and then all that to say, get rid of the people off of your list that are not doing any good for you. And I know that that feels really strange. It almost feels like you did all of this work now just to get rid of somebody off, just take them off the list. But all they're doing is costing you money, costing you
Right.
time. If they're
Right.
not at all interested, before they hit the spam button, eject them from the list, make them go away, or all of a sudden, the whole quality of your list is gonna disappear as well. So,
Yep.
most of us don't need much more than, 1,000 to 5,000 people, high quality customers on a list to really make a whole truckload of money,
What?
right?
Wait
I
a
mean,
minute.
whole truckload of money.
Wait. There's some guy that talks about your 1,000 perfect people or something. I forgot what his name was. But
Uh,
how long do you typically run a campaign? Like, if you were doing a contest, we'll talk about
a
this a
con
million times in the future, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. It's a really common question that people ask, right? So I will generally run a campaign from 2 to 3 weeks. I don't run it generally for much more than that. Um, and I do that because it feels like it's really hard to get traction after about 3 weeks. It for me, based on the data that I've seen, my campaigns start to fall off after about 3 weeks. I don't know about your campaigns.
It's one of those things that's really hard to necessarily quantify if you're not
Yeah.
watching the data, right?
Yeah. If you're watching the data,
Um,
it's really interesting to see. It's like you're like, Hey, this thing is going great." And then all of a sudden plateaus, and then it starts to come down. And you're like, "Whoa, this is weird. What's happening? It was
yeah,
working so great."
yeah.
And then it's time to turn it off.
I had a particular client that was anti-promotion, which seems contradictory, but
Yeah.
he had a website that was incredibly popular
Uh-huh.
in the camera niche,
Uh-huh.
and I still have this chart somewhere. I don't have it with a button, but he sent 2 promotions to his list in a
Yeah.
3-week period.
Yeah.
And it did that very thing. It started off with gangbusters and then it slid down. And when he sent
Yeah.
another promotion, it went up. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why didn't we send more promotions for this campaign?
Right.
And he's
Yeah.
like, well, I just didn't want to overdo it. He got 56,000 leads in that particular
Right.
campaign.
Right.
But he just didn't want. But the key is to look at the damn data
Right. Right.
and the ability to see those trends.
Right.
One of the other gentlemen that I have spoken with, and I need to speak with him again. I haven't spoken in probably a year. Told me that he runs his campaigns for 3 months,
Wow.
and I went, uh, wait a minute, 3 months.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
said in his past, now he has one of those contest websites where there's a ton of contests, and he
Sure.
runs his own in the middle of other people
Sure.
submitting theirs. But he said that he really didn't see the viral effect happen until month 3.
Interesting
And
for him.
and I I have in the back of my mind had a mental note to go talk to him again because I want to see if that's still working
Yeah.
and what show me some data that shows me that that's true. Because
Yeah. For
I
sure.
have run one campaign for I think it was 4 months, but the client wasn't promoting it and it was a
Yeah.
really trashy campaign, so there was no data to really gather out of that.
Yeah.
But that's the only
Yeah,
one
and
I've
I
ever
I
run.
guess and sort of to back to our last episode, if you had a long-term ad campaign and you start to see it falling off, you can certainly inject new traffic into it through a paid ad,
Right?
and then see how it does and sort of play with it that way. But to do it much more than a month would be, in my mind, is just sort of a waste of energy. It doesn't seem to work. So.
We are right at 30 minutes, sir. Isn't that
Well,
amazing?
it's time to land the plane. So, it's interesting that the only comments that we got during this specific episode, were bots, and in the last episode, we got a whole bunch of comments that we appreciate. But, look, we're gonna be doing this. We have a kind of a weird schedule for those people who are watching right now. We kind of have this weird schedule where we didn't plan on going live when we first started. We were just going to do a podcast and release them incrementally every week. And in order to get ahead, we decided we would do 2 episodes for 2 weeks in a row, and then we'd take a break. And then we do 2 episodes 2 weeks in a row, and we'd take a break for a week. Well, because we're going live with these, we're kind of on a funny schedule. So it looks like we're going to be 7 a.m. Wednesday mornings, like two in a row and a gap, and two in a row and a gap. 7 a.m. on the Pacific
Right.
side of the country, and and then if you miss an episode or whatever, you can go to the web page and you can watch whatever it is. But thanks for sticking it out with us. And if you have questions or comments or just hate mail, that's fine too. You can send it to me at my email address is bradley@waldropcommunications.com. And Mitch, you going to show us this really cool graphic that you keep
I
bringing up? I
am.
dig it.
Reach me
Good.
at
Yeah.
contactmitch.com, which also has my email address and several other ways to reach out to me. And if you got your phone out, you can use the QR code to just zip over there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I have no idea what we're going to do next week, but I'm sure that it will start one way and end probably a way we didn't expect, because that's the way these shows go. And maybe sort of behind the scenes a little bit that you guys don't know is we have this long running list of possible topics, and we look at it and we go, yeah, that sounds like an interesting topic, and then we start on that topic, and then where we end up is really hard to tell. None of this is scripted, and maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but
Right. We'll
yeah,
see.
yeah. Until
All
next
right.
week, I'm out of here.
Hey, thanks, Bradley. It's always wonderful sitting and chatting with you. And if nobody ever gets anything out of it, I do.
I do too. I enjoy it. So thanks for doing it.
My pleasure. And I'm going to press my fancy finish button and we're going to see if it
Okay.
works instead of me manually clicking.
Okay.